Whoa, 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 whoa! It's Rostermania time again. Been a couple weeks since we've done one of these, and there's been some pretty big news coming out about some of these signings. So let's dive into them, shall we? We're gonna start here with Americas, as we tend to do. And yeah, we've covered most of these before, but we're gonna start with this Demon 1 to Leviathan, a pretty big one. Now again, just quickly, these are like reports or announcements. You know, they are things that are pretty much either guaranteed or, you know, very likely to happen. They're not just rumors. So Demon 1 to Lev, big. And speaking of Lev, they also add in Natank. So that means that the Lev team looks like this. We're not keeping Aspas, it seems, and instead we're bringing in Natank and Demon 1. So this is the Lev team. And let's start with Demon 1 here first, okay? So Demon 1, this is obviously a big season for Demon 1. We saw him win champs with EG, but then obviously this past season basically went as bad as it could have possibly done. And so this is a big season for Demon 1, right? Both for his career and for Leviathan, because of course for Leviathan, if you get the good Demon 1, things will, you know, probably be pretty good for this team. If you get the Demon 1, you know, where things are going terribly like they did last season, then this might be a bit of a mess. And for Natank, again, a lot of you, America's fans in particular who are interested in this might not really be too familiar with Natank, right? Played on Gentle Mates. But in my opinion, Natank is a very good player. I really like Natank. I think he's a very, very strong player. And I think this is a really good pickup for Lev. There might be some like role concerns. We'll see. Natank, I always associate him with the Phoenix, but obviously Phoenix is getting buffed, so maybe we will see that. And I think if you aren't that familiar with his game, then I think you might be pleasantly surprised at just how good he is. Okay, moving on. Oxy extends contract to 2028, and EG to add Sim and Yay. So this then is what the EG team will look like. They're keeping Potter, it seems, and they're keeping Nature Derek and Superman from last season. But then, as I said, adding in Sim and Yay. Let's just quickly touch on Sim. Tier 2 NA player for a while. You know, always seemed pretty decent, and essentially this is just like, hey, this is your shot. And for Yay, obviously, for me, it does kind of feel like maybe a bit of a last chance. Was one of the best players in the world, the best player in the world, very clearly in 2022. Since then, you know, the whole Cloud9 thing happened. He got kind of screwed over, you know, not really his fault. Then you go to Disguise, then, you know, the whole bleed thing. Like, it hasn't been a great time. And I think you can shoot Ye some bail for the fact that, like, okay, the Cloud9 thing wasn't really your fault, right? Then you're kind of scrambling and have to go play in tier 2. You sign with Bleed, who, as we know, at least behind the scenes, was an absolute mess. So this, to me, you know, with Potter as a coach, even though it is EG and the org itself is, you know, a mess, the actual team doesn't seem like a mess, right? And so hopefully that will help Ye, you know, be able to find that level of performance. But if he can't, this feels like a bit of a last chance. Okay, and then we've got Vinny and DG Zin are going to Loud. And so that will leave the Loud roster looking like this. Sadak going. You still have Tuiz and Kawanzi from last year. You add in Pancada, and then you add in Vinny, who's a tier 2 Brazilian player, and DG Zin, who some of you might remember from Furia in 23. Obviously a very different looking Loud, you know, the old Loud. I mean, actually you do have Pancada back, so I guess it's not as different as it could be. And obviously Tuiz and Kawanzi still there. Not exactly sure who will IGL. Maybe Kawanzi, I would guess, but not 100% on that. And then you've added in Vinny and DG Zin. Now, obviously, the expectation since Loud, you know, were in the game, essentially, you know, was always they were going to be one of the best teams in the world. The expectation for this team, I don't think will be as high. I think you're more looking at kind of like a maybe middle of the pack type team here for Loud, I would say. You know, you still got some good players. So it's not, I don't think this will be a bottom of the barrel team, or I'd be surprised at the very least if it was. I think you're looking at a competitive team, but maybe not at the very top of Americas like we're used to seeing for Loud. Then we've got Heat going to Furia, which we kind of already knew about after he kind of left crew there. But this is the big one, of course. MIBR to acquire Aspas. And this, of course, is where it will get very interesting for MIBR. Now, I'm not quite sure exactly, you know, who would be out of MIBR or if there are more changes coming. But, of course, adding in Aspas to any team is going to be a big deal and will be a big deal for MIBR. Now, Aspas has worked with Fraud before. Fraud was there when Loud won champs. So, you know, this is a match that is already known, right? Like, they both know each other already, so that should be pretty good for the both of them, I think. Obviously, the rest of the team and how MIBR did last year wasn't great, right? So there might still be some problems here. I don't think just adding one player is going to make this team insane. I still think that they should be looking at, like, okay, we are now going to at least be a competitive team. You know, we're going to be mid-table. Hopefully this is good, right? It's good for the Americas League that essentially we're probably turning a team that wasn't looking to do very much into a team that really, you know, could be doing a little bit of damage. Okay, now let's move on to EMEA, and for this one, we're going to start with Yampy and Profek to join BBL, and on top of that, they also signed Sociable and Chiwa. And so that makes the BBL team this, and you'll recognize, I'm sure, Yampy, of course, from Team Liquid, who is apparently going to be the IGL, and I think that that is very interesting. This guy was a guy that a lot of people were pretty hyped up as, you know, as one of those Turkish talents. I know less about Loon, however you say that name. Profek played in the East Surge League, was it with Diamond, I think? You know, I thought was pretty good. Oh, he's with Go Next as well. Go Next were pretty good last year. So yeah, he's been with two pretty good East Surge teams. Always thought he looked like a pretty decent player. And Chiwa was on Ascend, and I've met Chiwa in real life. He's a nice guy. Cheats at cards, but you know, other than that, nice guy. And I think is a pretty good player as well. So I think that this will be a pretty competitive roster overall. You know, they have played a couple of games already in the Red Bull stuff, and as you can see, you know, looks like it's going pretty well. And now let's go on to Giants. So Hoodie and Redgar have left Giants, and in their place come in Runner and Tomazi. So that leaves their team as this, adding in Runner and Tomazi. Now you can see here that Fatinho is also inactive here. Now, that was reported that Fatinho will be, you know, kind of off the team. I'm not sure who their fifth is, to be honest. Obviously, you're keeping Cloud and the extended Cloud, which obviously is a must and like a big tick in my view. They also decided to keep Purpo, who, you know, kind of joined later on in the season. So looks like he's staying. Runner, of course, was on Team Vitality last year, and Tomazi was, of course, on Karmi Core last year. So both players with Tier 1 experience that I think did okay. Probably looking at, like, you know, a mid-table kind of competitive roster. You know, I don't think it's a, you know, all these players are kind of good. You know, Cloud is very, very good. So, you know, I don't think they'll be bad by any means, but I think, you know, there probably will be better rosters in EMEA, obviously depending on who their fifth is. Okay, now let's talk about Pacific, and let's start with DRX, who have got a very different looking team. So this is the DRX team. You're keeping Flashback and Mako from last season, but there are 3 new names. Bane apparently is also not playing in the games that they were playing in the 10 Invitational. They were playing with a guy called Athan, as well as Freeing and Hyunmin. I'm not sure if this is like, you know, he was just in for that tournament or someone else is coming in. I don't know, but I'm going to assume that he is probably part of the main team as well. From what we saw in, you know, their tournaments here in the 10 Invitational, you know, they were able to beat FPX. They actually did beat Gen G on this Ascent map as well, which was quite good. But then they lost to Talon here 2-0 with a pretty woeful performance. And again, like kind of Loud, you know, obviously we're so used to just seeing like, oh, DRX, they're going to be near the top of Pacific for sure. Now I think you would have some questions whether this roster can be towards the top. I still think that they'll be pretty good, but I think that this is kind of a good sign of where I think they are, right? Which is Talon, I think, are like a good example of a team that I would put it like, they're the barrier. If you're better than Talon, you're probably going to internationals. If you're worse, you're probably not, right? And Talon are like on the edge of like, that maybe they will go, maybe they won't. So if you're losing 2-0 to Talon and getting blown out, that to me is probably like, you're probably not good enough to go to internationals. I just think that they'll be like a mid-table team. Okay, Alex, Paper X coach, has re-signed through 2026, and Gen G re-sign Munchkin and also bring in Yeoman and Foxy9. So that leaves the Gen G team as this. Now, it was reported that, you know, basically all of the Gen G members, I think, apart from Karen, had their contracts, you know, they needed to have their contracts renewed, and they eventually did decide to re-sign Munchkin and Texture, which I think makes sense. I think you've got the 3 most important parts of last season's team still together, and you're adding in Foxy9, obviously from DRX, and Yeoman, who was on Rare Atom before. I still think Gen G will be very good. I think if you watch them play in these tournaments, in the 10 Invitational, they were pretty good, I thought. I thought they looked strong, solid, very solid. And so that's good. I do have one concern, which I think Foxy, if you've watched Foxy9 play before, you'll know that he is, let's just say, inconsistent. And so, yeah, that gives me a little bit of pause, a little bit of concern. I was very impressed with Yeoman. I thought Yeoman looked good. You've obviously got Karen and Texture, who are both insane, right? So this is both good. Munchkin, I think, is proving himself now to be, you know, just an insane IGL. And just his solo performance as well was insane in that tournament at times. So, you know, very happy with these three still. Pretty happy with this. Foxy, if Foxy is on, this team is kind of, I think, unstoppable, to be honest. It's just those moments where Foxy is not on that, you know, I think then they could have some problems. And then we've got some changes for both DFM and Zeta. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't know too much about, you know, a lot of these players that they're bringing in and how they'll do. We'll have to see, I guess. They are playing in some off-season tournaments. They have already for some parts. So, you know, we'll see, I guess, is basically what I'm saying about that. And then finally, DOS9 joins Boom, who I think is a Kazakh player. So that's cool. So that is Rostermania for now. Obviously, a lot kind of going on, some big signings. Let me know what you think in the comments down below of some of this. Will Aspas be the GOAT again? Will Demon 1 reclaim his throne? Or will it go even further back? And Ye will come back and carry EG to another champs win.